Hi folks, Joseph Kursky here at the Colorado School of Mines campus. Let's talk about what we will do in the GEGN 590 course. Specifically, week 4, data and metadata. Data and metadata. Hi folks, Joseph Kursky here. Let's specifically talk about what you will do in week 4 of our course. I know this sounds super boring, but the focus is data and metadata. Data and metadata. Without sound data management, assessment of data sources, your GIS project is going to be less than ideal. Not just in this course, but throughout your geospatial focused career. Because everything hinges on the data and understanding the data quality, including who created it, how often it's updated, the scale, the resolution, and you'd need to think about all of that, including whether you should download it or stream it. Those are choices that you have to make, and we're going to dig into all that here in the course. So one of the things that I want you to read here in this particular week is something called data models and data handling. It's a bit of a review probably for most of you about how we actually store data in a GIS, and I don't get into it that deeply because at this point in your geospatial journey at the Colorado School of Mines, you already know hopefully most or all of this, but it's hopefully a nice review and talking about the layering aspect of GIS and the vector versus raster data models. The reason why I want to review the data models is because the route that you choose, whether to go vector or raster, affects your final result, your final polygons, or your final optimal sites for your fire tower, or whatever it happens to be. And also there's two main ways of handling or working with geospatial data. In the past, it was always downloading it or getting it on a physical device, a hard drive, a disk of some sort. Now you've got a choice. You don't have to download it all the time and getting it from a storage device. You can stream it. There's advantages and disadvantages to each method, and we'll talk about those a little bit in this week. Again, this data module or week, this could be our whole course. Alas, we only have a week to deal with it, but data is actually, there's sprinkles of data throughout this whole course, right? It all revolves around the data. And then the next thing I have you read is, again, it sounds a bit dry, but I'm focusing on some very short, concise documents that I want you to skim. You don't have to read the whole thing, but things like what's metadata and what are the components of metadata and what's the business case, including for your project of using or not using or documenting what you're doing along the way with your data. And then I have a document called Metadata Every Day with a food label analogy and then the top 10 metadata errors, So I want you to discuss amongst yourselves and with me about those documents, and I hope they're informative, not just for this course, but throughout your geospatial career. And then I'm going to have you read the Product Quality Assurance for GIS Lifecycle. I know that's a big mouthful of words, but GIS data quality is multifaceted. What are the key components in what is considered GIS data quality? It's not just how your data is scaled, what the scale is of your data. There's lots of other elements in there. And then I want you to think about what's the most significant thing you learned from that. Okay, then I'm having you read and skim GIS data sources. Again, this is a huge topic. Where do you get data from? How do you evaluate it? All of that sort of thing. I've got some lists there that you can skim, and then also a modern strategies for finding quality data for your project. I hope that's, again, very interesting, but also very informative. And then after that, I want you to read something about data organization in your project. Something that happens frequently is you've got a ArcGIS Online map with a bunch of layers in it, and some of those layers don't work. What do? Or you have an ArcGIS Pro project, and some exclamation points appear in the table of contents, meaning that it lost connection to your data, whether it's physically on your device or on someone else's device or on a server or in a library somewhere. It's somehow lost its connection with the data. How do you fix that and how do you deal with it? So there's a little bit of practical how-tos there. And then the next segment I want you to do in this course in this week is to read data quality scenarios. There are 10 reasons and scenarios that illustrate why data quality still matters in this age of, hey, anybody can create spatial data, anybody can serve it. I want you to dig into 10 scenarios. They're really interesting scenarios. I've hand selected these, so it'll keep you engaged, I hope. Very short scenarios. You pick one of them and then you comment on that, and I'm hoping that you'll comment on each other's and say, hey, I like that one, but this was even more interesting to me and why. So 10 data quality scenarios, thinking about what kind of data you would need to use for your project. I want you to articulate that with a couple of short statements. What data sets might you be using for your project, the sources, the scales, whether you're going to stream it or download it. And it's not just an exercise to keep you busy this week. All of these things that you're working on week to week, you're going to be able to put it in your final project. So this whole segment about data, those paragraphs can go right into your final project. So I'm hoping that that's useful as well. And then finally, as always, a short quiz that it's not a stress thing. It's designed so that you can realize, hey, I'm making progress. I'm learning some things. I'm picking up some skills. I'm working on my project. And so there's a short, again, 5-minute quiz for this week, which is focused on data and metadata. That's what we're going to do this week in our GIS project course at the Colorado School of Mines. We'll see you in the course. Glad you could join me for this course.